Angie Andrews eyesight. I don't know about you, but when your heart is heavy about a topic, especially over a relationship with family or friends, people that you love, but are estranged from, those that have deep chasms in communication, people that you would love to interact with or reconcile with, you've extended forgiveness to, and the extension of forgiveness is completely one-sided, has not been given back to you. What do you do in situations like that? I'm lifting it up once again, because in the midst of our suffering, we still can see how the Lord is working behind the scenes. And for years, I have just wanted to be heard and understood by my family. And we were, raised to just not cooperate well with each other. And that's not being mean. It's just an observation. It's truth. And we all know that the truth hurts, but the truth also sets us free. And I use movies to relate to my own personal life. I cry every single day and I laugh all the more because of it. And I saw a movie called Like Father on Netflix. And I also work with foster kids because I fundamentally, for myself, have believed that I was always an unwanted child. And that's my perception. And one thing that we have to realize that movies are depicting things that we generally don't talk about in conversations with the people that we're offended by. Um, and if I was a child and I was perceived that I was unwanted, even as far back as the womb, and now I'm becoming a therapist who does research and works with children who are unwanted in the womb, I didn't make this stuff up. It's coming from a deep place of perception. That is why we have problems in this world. That is why movies are made depicting rejection and abandonment and isolation and rifts in family. Because however young we are, when we go through something that makes us feel unloved and not accepted, then we carry that into adulthood. And the enemy is real. It's not God's problem or God's fault. The enemy, Satan, exists, and his hope is that we self destruct by the time we reach adulthood. How does he do that? By destroying our relationships. And most children that have a deep disconnection or disrespect for their parents, especially those you've seen where children are adopted and they're raised in a great home and they go wayward in their teens or in their 20s, and everybody's like, oh my God, this guy is falling, what's going on? And it's like, dude, it's a spiritual condition that doesn't have anything to do with your nurture, your environment that you set up to be so perfect, because it has a spiritual connection back to the womb. And my story has leaked out because I told it years ago and it resurfaced on Facebook because someone else has access to my computer. And it's one of those things where I'm facing another volcanic eruption of offending, people that are closest to me that I've worked very hard on forgiving. And now it's being thrown back in my face that I have to forgive, but I'm not going to be forgiven. And so this movie kind of, it spoke to my heart because the father came looking for the daughter, which seldom happens. You always hear these cases of people like myself who want to just earn the love and acceptance of my mother. And so they keep running after her and she just doesn't have it in her. So she just keeps doing her own thing. And yet I'm like, what is wrong with me? And in this movie, um, the father comes back for the daughter and she's like, how does this happen? And it was beautiful because he said to her, I didn't think I was a good enough parent to take care of you. And this light bulb went off. And the aha moment was, what if? What if? What if that's the majority? What if that's most parents' thoughts when they leave, or they are like, oh, dang, I'm pregnant. I got to do the right thing. I can't get an abortion. I have to go through the motions. Or what if, like my sister just suggested to me, I was actually planned, but my perception as I grew up, my first formative years, was that I wasn't wanted. Who's right? Who's wrong? It's nothing to do with that. Each individual has a story to tell. The parent has a story to tell. The child has a story to tell. And I think um, all of this coming up again has been good for me because although I've forgiven, sometimes I have to choose the high road. And as my sister would also say, there's a lot less traffic there. And that means extending forgiveness to somebody else who is completely incapable of giving it back. They're comfortable in victimhood. They're comfortable in throwing shade and blaming you for being ungrateful or disrespectful or whatever it is, because victimhood is a badge of honor for them. You still can't do anything about it. It basically becomes none of your business what they think or believe about you. Their opinion of you is vile and you can't do anything about it. And you're like, but I have to own my stuff. Yeah, because that's the reality, that forgiveness sets you free. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just really means that, you know what? My bad. I know you got beef with me. I can't make it right with you. And I have to say that I'm growing and changing. And this becomes yet another story that I get to tell because I can't negate my story. I can't negate being small little Angie and perceiving life as hardship like I did, and then not talk about it for the sake of everybody loving me when they don't love me anyway. Then that to me says use my story to help somebody else, and I will do so. I've done my best. I don't know what else to do. I can't make somebody love me either. I mean, that should be taught in every, what, elementary school? Just because somebody doesn't love you, just because somebody doesn't want you, just because somebody doesn't respect you, it doesn't make that true. And so movies have a way of really making me stop and think and pray. And I did pray that I would one day be able to just have a dialogue with my family. Like, what was your family like? What was it like growing up in your household? Maybe that would shed some light on why I feel so disconnected to you and have my whole life. And we, let's face it, there's families that go on and on for years without ever communicating. These huge chasms of distance placed between, you know, family members because of misunderstandings or offense. And it hurts all the more if Christians do it because we're called to forgive and the world doesn't understand that. And so you kind of have to let them off the hook of not getting the concept of grace and mercy. But dang, man, it's like when you're going around that mountain again and again and again, all I can say is, hey, you know what? I messed up. Or did you even ask me? Did you even think that maybe there could be two sides to the story? Why is your side of the story always the right one? And I guess, it's different if we're dealing with a narcissist. A narcissist is always going to counter and change the argument and just put the hand up and not be interested in anything you have to say. And you have to let that go as well. And we see this all the time in movies. But I like the ending of this particular one because they gave each other a chance. And I think today we need to really be aware that there's two sides to every story and that the things that cause us to cry and grieve as we're watching a, a film play out before our eyes usually are speaking to something that we also want to mourn and move on with. And I offer this to all of us. Hey, you know what? You can forgive, and you can't always expect the person to forgive you back, but it's still part of the story.